But I want to try to honor Mom and preach a message this morning at the same time, with the idea that it would be inspiring to the rest of us who maybe aren't moms or will never be a mom. I want to show a picture of Mom today. It's Mother's Day, and what a wonderful and incredible responsibility you carry when you own the title of Mom. It's not a earned title. Just because you've given birth, I don't believe necessarily makes you Mom. You will be a mother, but Mom is that endearing title that comes with the care and the love and the nurture and the admonition. Mom. And if you're from the north, it's Ma. You just say Ma. That's what you say. We've been in a series called One Another with the intention of giving practical scriptural representation of what it means to love God and to love people. These are tangible actions which we are supposed to be living out on a day-to-day basis. The 4 topics we've looked at so far could easily have been preached today because I believe they're all mother's attributes. Attributes in which Mom relates to her children, but I chose a different one this morning. However, so far we've looked at loving one another. Check. Mom trait. She loves everyone until you hurt her kid. Caring for one another. Check. That's another mom trait. She will weep with her children when they are weeping because they're hurting and she's hurting. She will celebrate and rejoice with her child when they're rejoicing because their heart is happy, so her heart is happy. Mom is the embodiment of caring for one another. Bearing with one another. Does anyone put up with more than Mom? No, you're right. Does anyone carry you through situations more than Mom? I mean, who's helping you with that last-minute science fair project? Mom, right? Forgiving one another. Mom believes in you more than anyone else. Mom will believe you more than anyone else. And Mom will forgive you quicker than anyone else. Now, it's important to point out the comment about all of these one another's applying to Mom really probably typically only applies to Mom's kids. If you violate them, she will cut you. So we might need to work on these with Mom for everyone else. But I know they are true for your own kids. Today I want to talk about the next one another principle, which is serving one another. I can only speak for my mother and for the mother of my children, but there's a picture of both of them side by side in the dictionary next to serving. And probably you can say the same thing about your wife and your mother. Today is not about giving a list of items that some mothers are able to do and others are not able to do. In fact, I think that's kind of demeaning at times. Today is not about how a mother keeps a house, cooks a meal, or even perceived range of emotion she may or may not have while accomplishing all the tasks she's been entrusted to do. And can I be honest, only a mother knows what that list of tasks are. Today I want to acknowledge how a mother is a faithful woman who tirelessly chooses to serve their families day in and day out, not because they have to, but because they choose to serve. Last week I told you that Jesus moved us to a place where the law was written on our hearts, and it's about our attitude as much as our actions. I referenced the Sermon on the Mount where it says hating your brother is equal to sin, and looking at a woman lustfully is equal to adultery. Are the consequences different in the natural realm? Well, of course they are. Obviously, I'm not going to go to jail for hating my brother. I will go to jail if I kill my brother. Mom's tried putting me there before. The way a mother serves her family is a picture of the heart issue. I've seen my mother and my wife serve when exhausted because whatever it was that needed to be done, needed to be done. And it wasn't because they had to, but rather because they loved us enough. It was a heart issue, not a I have to issue, which I believe is how the Lord relates to us and how we should be relating to the Lord. The challenge today is to show you that this idea of how a mother serves her family is actually how we're supposed to treat everyone. The selfless attitude is the picture of what it means to serve one another. And if you look in Galatians chapter 5, Paul challenges us to serve one another. He says in verse 7, "You ran well. Who hindered you from obeying the truth? This persuasion does not come from him who calls you. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. I have confidence in you, in the Lord, that you will have no other mind, but he who troubles you shall bear his judgment, whoever he is. And I, brethren, if I still preach circumcision, why do I suffer persecution? Then the offense of the cross has ceased. I could wish that those who trouble you would even cut themselves off. For you, brethren, have been called to liberty. Only do not use your liberty as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, beware lest you be consumed by one another." Paul, writing to a group of churches in Asia Minor, not sure if you know, Galatia is not a city, it's a group, it's an area of churches that come together that Paul's writing to. And he says this, "You ran well, and who hindered you from obeying the truth?" He's talking to this group of churches who were doing this amazing job. And he said, "You were doing so well. What happened?" Then he says, "Certainly, you're not hindered because of the Lord, the one who called you." Paul goes on to say that a little leaven leavens the whole lump. It's this idea, if you're a baker in the room, you understand the picture of a little leaven and how it causes the bread to rise. And just a little bit will get the job done. And Paul's saying to us, look, you let just a little bit of leaven get in you, that attitude, that heart, and it changes everything. As a mom, and I'm going to be honest, I'm sure, not in this room, and I mean this. There are moms who maybe would say, "I didn't do a good job." Maybe there are moms who didn't try. But in this room, the mothers that I know, the mothers that I walk with on a week to week, on a month to month, you're in my life and I'm in your life. These moms aren't in this room. You care about your kids. You care about your family. I've seen you go to jail to visit your children. I've prayed with you when you don't know what to do and you're tired and you're weary, but you want to still love and you want to still give it. And you haven't allowed that little bit of leaven to spoil the whole lump. In fact, you keep on. And maybe it doesn't even make sense to the rest of the world. But you're like, no. Remember I said you will believe in your child quicker than anybody else. You will believe your child. I promise I won't do it again, Mom. Okay, I love you. And you don't let that little leaven spoil the whole lump. Now, Paul's talking about doctrine. Paul's talking about false theology. He's talking about letting these things that would be not true come in and it begin to change what we believe. Right? So in our world today, there's all kinds of things that we let into our lives, into Christianity. Western church, the Western culture churches let all kinds of things in that we shouldn't let in. We need to have a black and white, a standard by which we live by instead of letting the world dictate what we believe. I mean, there are things that we say are Scripture that are not Scripture. Cleanliness is next to godliness. That's not in the Bible. But people will say that as if it's actually there in Scripture. And that's just a stupid example of something that we let in. How much postmodern culture and nature have we let into the church? How much have we let in that is spoiling the whole lump and we don't even know what to do with it? Proverbs 4, Solomon says this, "My son, give attention to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Do not let them depart from your eyes. Keep them in the midst of your heart." Okay, Solomon's being like, hey, get this. Get this thing. Understand, son. Just get this one thing. And he says, "For they are life to those who find them. They are health to all their flesh." And here's what he says. "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life." Guarding your heart is maybe the most important thing you can do. guarding your heart, keeping the world from causing it to be spoiled. And I continue to use the mother as the example because you will go to the nth degree for your child. You won't let that spoil you. Maybe you've been hurt, and maybe you say, I'm done. But you're not really. I mean, you're not. I know you're not because I've seen you. I know you're not because I know my wife and I know my mom. You cannot do this to your own child. You might use words that say that, but your heart, it's not. Going back to our passage of Scripture in Galatians, Paul says, I have confidence in you. Just as I would say today that I have confidence in each of you. Confidence in what? Confidence that when we choose to draw near to the Lord and He draw near to us, that we will have no other mind but that of Christ. Again, it's the guarding of the heart. It's putting His word in our life. It's praying. Meaning you will continue to seek out His will, His desire, and His commands on a day-to-day basis. Paul goes on to say, don't let your liberty be an issue. My Bible describes liberty as the freedom to do or to remove things that do not pertain to salvation. Don't let your liberty be an issue. Choose to serve one another. Sometimes, and here's what Paul's saying, look, your liberty, whatever that thing is you're free to do, that I'm not free to do, you will serve me by not doing that in front of me. And I will serve you by not saying you shouldn't do that. And I can make a list. I'm not going to make a list because then it becomes legalism. But there are things that you can do scripturally that I won't do. And there are things that I can do that you won't do. And you're like, what are you talking about? Go read the Bible. I'll give one thing because it's stupid. Secular music. For some people in this room, it really is a sin for them to listen to secular music. For other people in this room, it's just music. There's no touching of the heart. There's no indecency. There's nothing that bothers them. But for me or for you, depending on which side you fall on, this becomes a liberty. Scripture doesn't say you can't listen to secular music anywhere. I would suggest country western's a problem. But other than that, I'm kidding. I'm teasing. Maybe rap. I don't know. Something. I'm teasing. Listen, there are things in Scripture that you will decide, I'm not supposed to do this thing. Corinthian church is dealing with the meat that was offered to idols. So Paul says, hey guys, if it bothers them, don't eat it in front of them. Those things, you can serve me and I will serve you by not choosing to engage in those liberties if it's offensive. And vice versa. Paul goes on to say in verse 13, for you, brethren, have been called to liberty. You have been called to liberty. Only do not use your liberty as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love, serving one another. The commentary in my Bible says this, Christian freedom is not the removal of moral restraints. I like this. Christian freedom is not the removal of moral restraints, but the freedom to serve one another. The gospel exchanges the oppressive bondage of legalism for the higher bondage of love. Can I just say, insert picture of your mom? She's exhausted and still caring for the children. She's exhausted and still caring for her husband, which could be a child. Sometimes. She's exhausted and still going to work outside the home. She is amazing and serves out of her bondage of love. Not because she has to, but because she is loving, caring, bearing with, and serving one another and her family. It's not because she has to, although that may be the language that's used. I have to get this done. I have to do this. But it's out of her love. And by the way, the whole purpose of showing this morning is this is how we're supposed to treat everybody. Not just the way mom treats her kids. Galatians 5:14, for all the law is fulfilled in one word, even this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus, in describing to the religious leaders of the day what it means to serve, but he who is the greatest among you, this is in Matthew chapter 23, but he who is the greatest among you shall be your servant. And whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. So those are the religious leaders, those who are dying or demanding that you serve them. How about the disciples? He says this in Mark chapter 10, yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant. And whoever of you desires to be first shall be a slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. So I was looking for videos this week and to illustrate the message, and I'm going to show one in a few minutes. I'm not ready for it yet. But I came across this video, and it kind of illustrates this desire to be served, or this desire for recognition, this desire to be known, and it's this dad, right? And so dad has his son who's probably, 3 or 4 at the time, and he's kneeling there, and he's got the football, and he's like, okay, catch it, son. And he's teaching his son how to catch the football. And if you're a dad in the room and you've ever played catch with your kid before, there's this time where they won't even open their hands. And he's trying to get them to open his hands. And he's teaching them how to catch. And this video then, moves to the next stage. And it's like, they're 7 or 8 and they're playing catch in the front yard. And mom's carrying her groceries in or whatever. But they're playing catch. And next it's like Pop Warner football or Pee Wee football, whatever. And dad's out there coaching, and he's coaching them up, and you got this. And then it's junior high, and you see the dad like tying the shoulder pads. And he's giving him these words of advice, and he hits him in the shoulder pads. He says, look, we're going to make these tight. We're going to give the hit. We're not going to take the hit. Next thing is high school, and dad and mom are sitting in the stands and they're cheering, and dad jumps up and the popcorn goes everywhere because son makes an amazing catch. The next scene in this little video is the kid's in college, and he's playing football in college, and it happens to be the national championship game. And, of course, in a video like this, right, son catches the game-winning touchdown, and the father thinks all the way back to right here. All right, son, catch the ball. And son's being interviewed. What an amazing catch. What were you thinking? What happened? Blah, 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 blah. I give it all to my team. They did a great job. Quarterback made a great throw. Blah, 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 blah. Anybody you'd like to thank? Thanks, Mom. And the dad's like, and he just thinks back to all this stuff. And can I just say, obviously, mom was serving all the way along, but she wasn't trying to receive the glory for that. Right? Like, that's the picture. The dad is like, wait a minute, I did all this. You wouldn't. And the mom's like, that closes with, she just looks at the husband and smiles, and he's like, it's a picture of not needing to have all of the glory. Listen to this kingdom dynamic principle. Those kingdom dynamic principles are often found in the Life Application Bible that I read. And it says this: becoming like Jesus means becoming servant-hearted. Some may seek to work miracles, but Jesus did not say his first work was that. Some may desire recognition or to exercise power. Jesus functioned in. But he did not say his primary purpose was to display his power. Jesus said his primary purpose was that he came to serve and to seek and to save the lost. The primary purpose of the church is to secure and multiply Jesus' model of servanthood by creating an atmosphere and ministry emphasis that produces servants. The ability and opportunity to serve gifts from God and true growth, when it is pure, will produce the fruit of service. I chose serving one another today because I really truly believe that the picture of mom is a picture of serving one another. And I really could list all of these things off, right? Our son Justice graduated from high school yesterday, and yeah, sure, we can give him a round of applause. That wasn't the reason for that, but that'll be your $5 right there. They clapped for you. And we're walking across the stage, and we have the opportunity because we do the homeschool co-op. We're walking across the stage, and we speak our words of blessing over Justice. By the way, you can see that on Facebook if you're interested. It'll make you laugh, I promise. And I'm thinking to myself, Crystal had me talk because she doesn't like the microphone very much. But I didn't do anything. She did it all. I mean, I would come in and beat a kid if I needed to. I would come in and get real big behind her when they were talking back to her. But I mean, what did I really do in the education process? Not much. She said, I think we're supposed to homeschool. I said, good luck with that. I didn't say that. I said, are you sure? I don't know that I said that either. I don't know what I said. I realized how much she did for the first two of our kids to graduate high school. That is serving. That is a dying to oneself. That's everyday schedule. That's not just drop them off at school at 8 in the morning and pick them up at 3:30. And by the way, if your kids are going to a 5-day-a-week school, there's nothing wrong with that either. This is just my family. This is how we chose to do it. It's not right or wrong, but there's a level of serving that takes place as a result of that I think is the embodiment of what I'm trying to present this morning, but not just for your kids or your family or those that you like, but everybody. We're supposed to serve one another. I want to show this video as it's kind of an illustration of what it means to serve.
Here's to the mothers. Here's to the boo-boo kissers. Here's to the get up and warm the milk at 2 a.m. women. You are braver than you know. You make the music that makes the life, that gives the rhythm to the day in and out and in again. Courageous. You deliver babies by C-section or adoption certificate, or by push and pant and wailing battle cry of birth. You give more than you think you have, and when you're empty, when you're bone dry, you wring out one more drop, one more bottle, one more soothing the temper tantrum. Hero. You make a budget stretch. You clip coupons. You fight ketchup stains. You face the awkward parent-teacher moments. You listen. You translate for your child. You do the hard work of teaching at every turn. You find 100 new ways to answer 100 new versions of the question, why? Champion. You show up. You take photos. You cheer. You shuttle boys and bags of gear between sports fields and serve up ice cream afterwards. You disagree with him. You make her change her skirt, but you love fiercely from beneath those unruly bangs. You learn to laugh at your reflection. You revel in your smiley wrinkles. Real. You lose your temper. You yell and apologize and stamp your foot and prove that you are human. You cry. You venture out into an ocean of vulnerability with only a small dinghy and 2 short oars to keep you afloat when you become a parent. Anchor. You yield your figure, your abs, your size 4 jeans, but your will turns to muscle unheard of. It grows strong with determination. No one will wound these children without going through you first. You are a last harbor, a lighthouse in the storm of internet and Facebook, failed grades and peer pressure. But in the everydayness of these moments, you start to feel it. The weight of glory, the glorious ordinary. And on your quietest, least interesting days, you get better at hearing the music of motherhood. Slowly, a harmony rises from the collection of tasks every mother cycles through in a day. The sacred marriage of the mundane and the eternal. The small directly related to the massive. Kids walking around like so much eternity with skin on. There is no part of your everyday wash and rinse and repeat routine that isn't significant. You make the music that makes the life that gives the rhythm to the day in and out and in again. You are braver than you know because you mother.
You heard all the things they said. For a mother, it starts when they die to themselves in the birthing process. They serve by literally giving their bodies away. They serve by caring for and nurturing when the baby is a helpless infant. Serving and sacrificing on a moment-by-moment basis. It turns into serving by teaching and training in righteousness. It's encouraged by the weeping with and the rejoicing with. And then the serving changes to a releasing to be who God's called you to be. While this is just a brief picture of a 100-mile flyover of the stages of motherhood, it is exactly how we're supposed to serve, disciple, teach, and train new believers. It is what serving one another looks like. This morning I want to challenge each of us to serve one another as a mother serves, because it's how we tangibly live out the calling of loving God and loving people. Mom is a wonderful model of selfless serving, not for a moment and not for a minute, but for a lifetime. We're just about done. We're going to get in really early so you have time for pictures and all of the lunches that you have planned and all of the ways that we're going to enjoy Mom this afternoon. There's 3 ways I want to pray this morning. The first is, I just want to pray for Mom, because she's worthy of prayer and she's worthy of honor. And so if you're a mom in the room, would you just stand?